Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it's the first day of August, April Fool's, first day of April Fool's Day, and welcome to our show this morning. Anyhow, we've got so much to work on today, and today is going to be a great day because I've been working on some lawfare and lawsuits, and I think this is going to be fun to talk to John about this morning. We also worked on a resolution having to do with tariffing for the U.S. for the Constitution Party of Michigan, which is the U.S. Taxpayers Party, and I think we're going to be talking about this some more. But at any rate, I wanted to invite John on this morning. And morning, John. April Fool's Day.
Well, April Fool's Day are for those that believe in the left.
That's right. This is the day. This is the left. This is the left day of the year.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of funny. It used to be a really big day in my household because, all right, my whole family is kind of nuts, right? We get along really good, and we're constantly giving shade to each other. So when the kids were little, they would spend a lot of time spending the entire day playing April Fool's jokes on each other and on us, right? And so it was always kind of a funny day for all of us. But at any rate, so we're here today, and what are we going to be talking about, sir? Because I'm from your point of view, I would like to talk about a little bit the amount of immigrants, documented and undocumented, which have received a Social Security number and freaking benefits. I am a little annoyed with this. I am more than a little annoyed with this. I'm pissed off over this. So this is where we get to be two grumpy old guys that we get to talk about what's wrong with the United States of America.
Well, this is a very important point that they've been preaching. The lefties have been preaching that they're going to disband Social Security or get rid of Social Security. And yet they've been stealing from Social Security all along. So how are they going to get rid of a program that's been their money laundering system for a long, long time? They're not going to get rid of it. As far as the conservatives and or Trump and the MAGA people getting rid of it, they're not going to get rid of it either, because what's a contract between the people and the government? And they just can't wipe it out without destroying a contract that they had created.
I've got a way to deal with this. And it goes down to the same structure of why the state of Michigan is all messed up, why we don't have roads, why we don't have anything else. And the way I think we should deal with it is it shouldn't be something, because the government's just using it as a tax. It's not, you're not getting your money back. I think that we need to treat it just like the way that the government has got the money coming in. Everything's going into the general fund, right?
That's right.
So problem,
it's really not. What they do is they put it in the Social Security fund, and then they put an IOU in the Social Security fund and take the money and put that into the general fund.
Right.
It's a con. It's a Ponzi scheme set up against the people, and it's been going on for years.
Right. Well, I think it should be like a bank that you deposit into it, and you let it grow and have them manage it, that sort of thing. And there's got to be strict controls on it, just like you would with a bank, right? With interest and return on it, that sort of. But every individual should have their own individual set aside account that stays in there, and the money doesn't get touched. As far as what is in that account. Because right now it's totally screwed up. Just like the state should be managed so that the money going into the roads account, there's a set aside for that, and that gets touched for no other reason. So that we have the money for what we expect we're supposed to have.
Well, they pull the same stuff in Michigan when they did the thing about let's bring on the gambling situation. Let's legalize gambling in Michigan. And then it's going to pay for schools. So it does pay for schools, but they took the general fund money that used to pay for schools out of the school system, and they just funded by the gambling. So what they promised was that it was going to be extra money, and what ended up happening, it was the only money. So it's just the game and the Ponzi scheme and the shell games that the government plays against the public. And the public is unaware of it because we don't pay attention to the people we elect in office. We just let them run helter-skelter, and they steal from us on a daily basis, and we don't pay any attention to that.
Right. And let's go back to this casinos. I don't think people understand how much the casinos are used for money laundering in the state of Michigan, and for child trafficking. Okay, we're going to have to come to some real tough realities that we're dealing with, because the casinos, because they consider the Native American, which I think is a bunch of crap, because we're all Native Americans. If we were born in America, if we're born in Michigan, we're Native Michigan. Okay, that's just the way it is. We were Native from Michigan, and so I've got a problem with it. But because they've designated this as a foreign nation, basically, or as its own sovereign nation, that we have no jurisdiction over it. So what do? They set up casinos and they money launder this. And I think we can go back to several individuals that are tied to, say, like Las Vegas and such. But of course, they're given contracts they can give contracts to contractors for the development and for construction of all sorts of things. Pay them too much money or have unaccountable amounts of money, and they just take bags of money to the casino. And I have a person that I know who works in the casino, says that's exactly what's going on. And then the people that play ball with them, they'll just give them money and say, yeah, just go to the casino and there you go, have fun and whatever. And by the way, there's a kid sitting in a hotel next door for it too. So why do they have hotels closed? Which I think is, something we're going to have to deal with this.
Well, the whole thing goes back to the banking system, goes back to the funny money fiat system, where they can print money out of thin air and steal your labor because they're printing money out of thin air, and they're taking your property, your wealth, and who you are, and making you into an economic slave in this country. And that's been going on for years. It's since 1913, when the Federal Reserve Bank became part of the banking system, at least as far as we're concerned. I mean, there were two other private banking systems that were set up prior to 1913, but the Federal Reserve banking system is a fraud upon the public, and it creates all the other fraud. It creates the money laundering. It creates buying politicians, buying certain rights and privileges, buying votes, and so on and so forth. That's what it's all about. It's the funny money system we got to get rid of. Trump is on the right track by going back to a gold and silver economy, and therefore you cannot print paper without some sort of backing. That's going to change a lot, and it's going to get rid of these corrupt politicians.
Show everybody your hat a minute. There you go. Trump was right about everything.
That's right. Nothing's changed.
There you go. He's got some.
We knew this all along.
I think he's good at swimming with some bad guys too, to expose them. I mean, there's always something going on, but he knows how to play the game, and I'm sure he knows who he's talking. You can't be in positions that he's been in without knowing exactly who you're talking to, when you're talking to him, just by instinct alone. The guy's not a dummy. Everybody looks at him and says, I don't know if he knows what he's doing. I'm like, yeah, he does.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
He knows exactly. And there's so much intelligence going on around him that it's not like he's walking through there blind, but he does have people around him that they're getting exposed. And I think it goes a lot deeper than what a lot of people think it does, the corruption.
Oh, the corruption's been going on since, George Washington. It started way back then when the lefties tried to take over the government they tried to kick Washington out of becoming the president. This is history. This is our legacy. We have the left, And people that call themselves left or liberal or whatever you want to call it, and I don't know if liberal and left are the same, because these are titles. And unless you define what that title means, you don't really know what that person is talking about or where that person's coming from. I'm a liberal. What does that mean? What does that mean that you're a liberal? What is the liberal idea? And then if you start defining those terms and pointing out what a liberal is, then you find out, well, they're really not that far off center from what a conservative is. They just call themselves a liberal, but their ideas aren't a whole lot different. They believe in freedom for people. They believe in equal rights and so on and so forth. That's similar to everything else that we've been doing. But because they call themselves a liberal and because they stand on the liberal philosophy and they follow these liberal people who are trying to destroy our country, that's why we end up picking on them. Excuse me, because they are not thinking for themselves.
Well, when you get off to either side, like super to the right, super to the left, the only choices you have is you're either communist or you're fascist. So, and they kind of meet around the other side on how they accomplish the subversion.
That's what we were talking about years ago when I was teaching school. But we would kind of live in a real circle. See, the communists, let's say the communists are at 12 o'clock of that circle, and the fascists are at 12 o'clock at that circle.
Absolutely.
So if you go all the way to the left or all the way to the right, you end up in the same spot. And that spot is total control of the public. So you can call it a fascist or you can call it a communist, but they're the same. They have the same end goal in mind. And that's what we have to understand. It's not that, oh, you're a fascist or you're a communist. It's that you are an American and you believe in the Constitution. That's and that's, you call them a centrist. Libertarians call them a centrist.
That'd be a 6 o'clock on the clock.
Yeah, or center. Yeah,
center. The center of the clock.
Neither right nor left. We're constitutionalists. We follow the law of the land, which is the Constitution. That's where people need to be focusing on. Not the right, not the left, because the right and the left have the same idea in mind. Control the public, take away your freedoms, take away your privileges, take away your money, and make you an economic slave. They're both the same. They reach them by different goals, by different methods, but their final end goal is the same.
Well, when you want to really categorize them to the core, you can look at the fact that this has been going on. It's the same thing. It's all about land, resources, and trade, and who has control of those issues. That's what it's always been about. When they've taken over, when the communists or the fascists have taken over, it's all about getting the economic advantage. It's the love of money and it's the control, total control. And if you don't fall in with them, lock, stop, it's goners for you. And it's like when we talk about the invasion that we've had of the United States and the world, really the world, they've done it all over the world where they want to have influence in an area, or they want to have the resources. They will quite often flood in another population, which saps the money off of the coffers of the country. They've done it over and over again. So with that said, I'm going to bring this back around because there's some videos going around that there's 2.4 million non-citizens that have been given Social Security numbers and have been receiving benefits. So I started doing a little bit of research on this. And I think they're off. Actually, I think that they're definitely off. But check this out. There are for undocumented. Let me start over again. Let's see. Some undocumented immigrants may obtain Social Security fraudulently using fake documents, using Social Security's issued to other workers, and additionally programs like enumerated beyond entry, which allows certain legal immigrants to receive Social Security numbers upon arrival. I don't even know what that means. I mean, if they're not a citizen of the United States, I don't understand why they're getting things that come off our tax base that's supposed to be benefiting Americans, right? And so they've been conflated in the public discourse. However, there are some media outlets and documentation that from 2024 to 2025 that are claiming figures between 2.4 million and 5.5 million illegals receiving Social Security numbers under the Biden administration. That was what was happening. So we really don't know exactly how many, but I think that we're going to find out that it's much higher than 2.4. And I don't believe that they've got all the numbers in for the undocumented or the illegals, because how do they actually know? There's no way that there's a test there.
Well, first of all, we have to go back to the intent of the law, intent of the Social Security system way back in Roosevelt's days. Why was that developed? It was supposed to be to keep the wolves away from the door for the poor people, or for the people that didn't have the intelligence to save. Why would we have had a system where we went after the public and said that you're not smart enough to save for your retirement? You're going to blow all the money. Rather than set up a program back then to teach those people that, you make $100, you put $10 away. But you put $10 away in your own resolve. In other words, Roosevelt then took gold out of the system. But what if you would have started putting silver and gold away 20 or 30 years ago, 40 years ago, because you were taught that that's what you do. You make $100 and you put $10 away in a gold or silver coin. Today, you'd be a mega millionaire. You wouldn't have to worry about Social Security, because you would have learned to put that money away to begin with. But I wasn't taught that in school. I was taught that you were supposed to pay Social Security, and your job that you were working at would pay, half of it. You pay half and they'd pay half. And it would go into a fund that the government, and first of all, if I know what I know today about the government, I wouldn't trust the government with a paperclip. But back then, I was just growing up. School didn't teach me that. My parents told me to put things away, but it wasn't like it was a major part of your life, a major part of your bringing up. So if it would have been taught by Roosevelt back then in his days, but that wasn't the reason that they came up with Social Security. The reason they came up with Social Security was that it was a tax on the public. They wanted a tax. Where that money went, nobody paid any attention to where that money went. Oh, it went into a Social Security fund. Well, what does that mean? It's a Social Security fund under general fund. So that money actually went into the Social Security fund, and they wrote an IOU, and they took the money out and spent it on the government, or put it in their pockets, which these government politicians, public functionaries have been doing for years, stealing from us, because it was, hey, Donna, I'm going to give you my piggy bank, and I'm going to let you watch it. And I'm not going to pay any attention. I'm just going to keep putting money into it. What does that do?
Well, yeah. So they're estimating that this is the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy estimated that undocumented immigrants paid $25.7 billion into Social Security and $6 billion into Medicare. I can't even see how that's even possible. You know, it's like
undocumented pay into Social Security.
Yeah, how are they gonna? They're undocumented. It's like I don't get it, you know. But this is some of the nonsense that's out there, and it blurs the line. So I don't believe the numbers at all, because how many people? This is a real problem. Is that people are used to being paid, you know, under the table, the cash businesses out there, which I have a big problem with the entire system. I mean, they're taxing us wrong, but they're literally focusing on the wrong things instead of fixing the whole system for everybody. They have it rigged against the American taxpayer, using undocumented immigrants and people who are not citizens of the United States in order to create a money flow for them to take and siphon the money off to themselves or whatever economic advantage that they're taking because of their stupid public-private partnerships, which is exactly what China has going on. We're just using different words. You know, they claim ownership of all their businesses. In the United States and politicians claim ownership over businesses in a very economic cannibalistic way, just by saying a public-private partnership.
Yeah, through taxes.
Yep, through taxes.
All the businesses. Yes, that's absolutely correct.
So kind of a sad commentary that, you know, that this is kind of the narrative that's out there, and we really need to think about this and reject their numbers they're coming up with, because it's like the fox guarding the hen house. They're not going to tell you how many chickens are in that hen house, as they've been eating chickens for, you know, and having brunch for the last, you know, however long.
It's going back to the whole purpose of the Social Security tax system and the whole income tax system, because the banking system couldn't survive without an income tax and without the other taxes that they have forced upon the public. And the public doesn't get it. And I think, you know, fortunately today we are getting it. And it's taken how many years for the general public to figure it out? It's taken a long time, and it's taken somebody like President Trump and his team of patriots to get in there and say, look what's going on. Because Hillary would have got in office, or Kamala, things would have continued to deteriorate, and we would have become more and more economic slaves than we are today. But
I feel kind of sorry for those who are still asleep, honestly, at this point in time, because I don't think they have the mental capacity to actually wake up to what's going on around them.
There are those, unfortunately, that are not going to wake up, that will wake up long years after this whole system is returned to the proper system that it was set up to be. It'll take a long time for some people to finally get it, because they're just not attuned to it. They're listening to their iPods and to their telephones, and they're following the propaganda that's on there, and that's all they know. They're not interested in deep diving into anything. So yes, it's going to take a while, and it's going to take us that have figured it out to try to teach those that have not figured it out. And that's going to be probably a monumental task, because, you know, I have relatives that don't get it and still don't get it. And over all of these, you know, 10 years that we've been in this battle, they still don't get it.
Yeah. So, I think I'm going to have a gal on. I met a gal at CPAC, and she talks about how to communicate to people who have let's just say I'm not going to use the word Democrat, because I'm sick of having the Democrat Republican nonsense up, because they're both kind of the same. But let's just say the programmed mindset that are afraid of everything, instead of, wait a minute, I'm not going to believe what I hear anymore, and I'm going to think for myself. Is there actually a threat here? Is there something to be upset about? Is anything that I believe to be true, is it actually the truth, or should we be questioning it, right? And so I spent quite a bit of time with her at CPAC talking about how to communicate to someone who is basically afraid all the time, because and I'm like, wow, this is just like training a horse who's been abused, because when a horse has been abused, it takes you a little while to break them out of this just flight or fight response to everything in the world and get them thinking. Like, let's name a threat that people think is out there that's just not a threat at all. Let's talk about the terms democracy. We've got to have democracy. That is all over the news. Well, because they've taken all of these terms and they've twisted them, people hear them and they turn into a screaming idiot over something that it's like, just hold on a minute. Let's have a discussion instead of just going straight to reaction and trying to get people to stop reacting and just going, what's the threat that you're actually hearing from somebody saying something? There's no threat there. They have the right to their opinion, and we can sit and listen to them without even responding and let them. You ever listen to somebody who's just so upset about something, they just need to get it out of their, it's like spitting poison out of themselves for a while. And after they spit poison out for a while, all of a sudden they'll start decelerating, and you'll watch them just kind of like relax because they've been able to release all that. But that takes a really good listener to listen to people that can do that.
What's the fear to get rid of the democracy? First of all, we want to annihilate the word, the whole philosophy of a democracy. But let's step beyond that. Let's say, what is the fear of somebody that says we are going to lose our democracy? What's the fear?
I don't know.
Yeah, that you're not going to be able to vote for a particular political pundit that you want? Is that the fear? Is the fear that you're going to lose your group rights?
There you go.
If you are a LGBTQ XYZ person, you're going to lose that privilege because you are an LGBTQ whatever they are person. Is that the fear? What is the fear of the democracy? If you lose what does that mean? We're going to lose our democracy. What does that mean?
Well, it's go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's where you have to take this information. That's where you have to take the argument to somebody that has that fear. What are you fearing right now? What do you fear about Trump? What is it specifically? Don't give me he speaks funny, or he's got yellow hair, or orange hair rather. Give me something specific. Besides, it's not orange anymore. I think it's getting gray.
He's getting pretty white.
But tell me specifically what it is that you fear about that particular word, about that particular philosophy. And most people, when they start thinking about it, they can't come up with an answer. They can't give you why they fear that. And so that's where we have to go with our discussion and our argument is, what do you fear about what's going on right now? What do you fear about Elon Musk doing what he's doing? What's the fear? What are you afraid of?
Yeah, it's like, are you afraid that somebody's? No. Are you afraid that somebody's going to lose their jobs that you don't even know? Or if there's somebody you know, are you afraid of them losing their jobs? And that can be actually a very heartwarming fear to a certain degree.
Well,
but then it's like, jump in and help fix the situation. We can start businesses. We can try to bring business back here. It's not like we have to be dependent on the government for everything. Let's get a plan. Let's start building some businesses. It's really not that hard to build a business. It's easy. And it's fun. It can be very, very fun and creative. It's a lot easier now to start one, sans the regulations to a certain degree, than it was when I started years ago, because You've got instant marketing that you can do. You've got communications that you can do very easily. You've got team management and email, and you don't have to send it through snail mail and such. There's a lot of things that are much easier. So if somebody's going to lose their job, help them start a business.
Is it that if you are sitting at home right now because you are employed by the government and you don't have to go to work and you're collecting a paycheck, that you might have to get up off your butt and go into the plant where you're supposed to be working? Is that the fear? What is the fear? We have to go back to why people, first of all, we understand the whole philosophy of terminology, because you can regulate a mob of people with the correct language, with the terminology. And so now you got to step back out of the mob mentality and think of why you are afraid of what you see coming down the line, what you see coming down in the future. What is the fear?
Well, for those LGBTQ people that are afraid to lose the democracy, I don't think they actually understand that in a democracy, they are an unrepresented minority. They don't really have the rights in democracy, because anything that the majority says is going to basically cut them off at the knees. It's not representational. I don't even think they understand that they want a republic, because a republic will represent their rights.
Well, that's very important that we understand that in a democracy, there are no rights. Nobody has any rights. The rights that are given to you are the rights that the government gives you, because the government can run elections in such a way that they can make those rights appear or disappear. Whereas in a republic, which we have, everybody has individual rights. There is no LGBTQ right. That's the right of Jones or Susie or Bill or whoever, the individual of that LGBTQ person. He has the right, or she has, or it has the right, I don't know what you want to call them. It has the right to the same rights that I have, the same rights that you have. These are our individual rights, because we are all part of the republic, which the government's function is to protect those rights, our individual rights.
So I want to go talk about tariffs for just a little bit, because we're working on a resolution having to do with tariffs. And Chris Dardzinski, I love Chris. He's great. He worked with international trade for 35 years. He knows the system very, very well. And he's been wonderful in bringing some of the aspects of that forward, because President Trump is talking about tariffing, right? So I have a question, and maybe you'll be able to help us with the answer on this. If the president issues an executive order, does this president have jurisdiction over issuing an executive order towards how tariffs are handled through executive order, or does that have to go through Congress?
Executive or tariffs are strictly the president's power.
It is the president's power.
Yes, it is. He can issue tariffs on any, because he is the executive branch of the federal government, and the executive branch has one function, and that's to protect us from foreign countries, foreign invasions, foreign this, foreign that. So he has the sole power to issue tariffs. He can do that. That's his power. He doesn't need Congress to issue a tariff.
Okay, so we were working on an actual structure for how to implement tariffs in order to fix a few things that are problematic within the import system. And I think we're going to work on it again next week or the following week. It depends on when I get back, of course. But I think it's a worthy thing. I'll send that to you so you can review it, because we wanted to be thoughtful about how we were crafting this and make sure that we were strictly sticking to what was allowable under the Constitution, not necessarily statutory, because some of that stuff is unconstitutional. So we're trying to stay within the bounds of the Constitution, which is kind of a hard thing to do in a way. You've really got to spend a little time on that, because they've gotten things so convoluted with unconstitutional laws that it takes a while to unravel it. So you go back and you look at, for Michigan, MCL, you start looking at that, you look at the acts that happened and that sort of thing, and finally get back to where it ties into the Constitution, and were any of these things that follow the Constitution, were they actually constitutional, or just in their own right? Or are we basing law on pretended legislation, which is happening a lot?
Well, got to understand that the way the system was set up, first of all, the three branches of government are totally separate. One cannot control the other. The legislature can control the executive branch through the purse strings, through regulations of monies to allow or disallow certain funding. And the executive branch could not control the legislature, nor could it control the judicial branch. But same token is that the judicial branch has absolutely no control over the executive branch or the legislature. They're totally separate, and all they can do is judge upon whether something is constitutional or not, and adjudicate the differences if we, the public, have problems. And we should be able to go to the court, and that's through the First Amendment, which is the right to redress a grievance, and redress a grievance from using the First Amendment to, against the public functionary or against another party or whatever. That's what the courts are set up for. That's the only reason that we have a court system.
I really want you to jump on when we go through this again. I want you to jump on and put your 2 cents into this when we do the next Zoom on the resolution, so that you can give us a little guidance there. And I think, because we want to do a real professional job on this, and make sure that we're doing it correctly. The more eyes on it, the better. There's more knowledge in the room at that point in time, and that's what we want.
Knowing, I got these helicopters flying around my house today for some reason.
They're coming to get you, John.
No, there's a Willow Run Air Base is right by, so they're probably going there. But I'm hearing a lot of third helicopter already going over.
You're getting re-enlisted.
I don't think they want me anymore. But anyway, getting back to the executive branch. The executive branch, specifically the president, has one responsibility, and that's the protection of us against the foreign invasion. And I'm using that kind of generically. Foreign invasion meaning selling goods to us on a tariff system. When we sell goods to them, they give us they had 150% tariffs on some of the vehicles that we were selling to Germany, for example, and we had no tariffs on German vehicles coming to America.
I mean, how stupid can these people be? If we ran the United States the way that it's supposed to be run, as an asset that we the people own, it's actually an income generator that we wouldn't need the taxes if we can stop this money laundering nonsense that they've got going on, because it's going to foreign countries. It never gets to the people that it's supposed to. It goes right back in a circle. It's a circular interaction where they just go back, and it comes right back into the politicians, because they can't money launder without getting caught eventually through a direct method. So they've got to take it around the outside of what we're normally looking at, where they can't be audited, which is the problem with the casinos.
Well, it's a part of the whole system that has been set up over the years to weaken the American government. And how do you weaken the American government? You make the American people pay high tariffs on, or you make the foreigners pay high tariffs on American goods, and you remove the tariffs from American goods, from foreign goods coming into this country. So we, the American people, would buy foreign goods because, well, it's cheaper, right? So we would buy the foreign goods. So this is a world domination kind of thing that they've been doing for years, little at a time, little at a time. Federal Reserve Bank, corruption of the Federal Reserve System, the funny money system, the tariffs that had been set up against the American government, and the tariffs that have been removed by America. This has been to destroy the economy and the country, as they pretty much did in Michigan, when Michigan was the leading state in the entire United States financially because of the motor industries. They destroyed the motor industries in this country because they didn't want Michigan to be such a powerful state, because then it would control and rule a lot of the stuff that's going on in the country. So they wanted to destroy Michigan, and they did. From the 40s and 50s, the powers that were in Washington and so on and so forth destroyed Michigan. And now they're trying to do it worldwide. And they up to now have been fairly successful, because a lot of industries moved out of America to these foreign countries, because the money system has declined so severely that today a dollar buys you 2 cents worth of product. That's why when you make $100,000 a year, you're just making ends meet. Basically, you're not making a big chunk of money. You're not a wealthy person. You're just an average person working on with an average job. God help those that are making, $15,000-$20,000 a year. They're barely making a life for themselves. And it's based on the fact that they've been trying to destroy America over these years. They've been trying to weaken us, and they've been successful. Let's face it.
Well, slaves in the Middle Ages had a better lifestyle in some regards than the people that are in lower income brackets in the United States. There's no two ways about it. We're at an 85% tax break, or tax rate right now. If you start adding up all the taxes, that should be sobering to everybody out there. And the Boston Tea Party was over a 2% tax, and they've incrementally raised it. So people will say, oh, I'm a 30% tax bracket and such, and go, and let's talk about the rest of the discretionary taxes that you're paying, as well as there's just tax upon tax upon tax upon tax, plus double taxation when it comes to retirement, and in business when they're taxed on inventory, and it just goes on and on and on. It is so shocking. And quite honestly, I don't think we all knew how bad it was even back in the 70s and 80s, because it kind of crept up on us.
Well, remember the 70s, we were just getting off the silver standard, because money was backed by silver before Kennedy died. And then once Kennedy died, Johnson and his Great Society took us off the silver standard and allowed the free flow of money to be printed without any form of backing. And the banking system got real good at it. And of course, they'd be able, and now if you want, you just print the money and you pay off a politician. And people like Elizabeth Warren make $60 million in her lifetime being a public functionary, and who is Pelosi making $200,000 off of the public, because they're able to pay her the money under the table, so to speak.
Through the spouses too. They go through the spouses.
Through spouses and through shell companies and the like. All the corruption is out there, but it was all established and set up because of the funny money system and the Federal Reserve Bank. Those Federal Reserve bankers, and too bad we can't dig up the old ones and hang all of them, but we should. All the way back to 2013. We should hang them all.
Yeah, do you think this whole conflict that looks like it's brewing in Iran has to do with that? Because I kind of wonder about that, because all of the countries that have not capitulated to the central banking system have been heavily attacked as well as demonized. So I don't even really know what's going on there, because when you look at what Gaddafi was doing, I've got some questions on whether he was really a bad guy, or if it was just that the Hillary people were trying to get rid of them because they were bucking the world system there.
Well, all of them. Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Korea, all of those countries. That was the setup by the warmongers in Washington. They set up a system that anybody that would buck the Federal Reserve Bank, the United States military, would go in and take over, eliminate those people, eliminate the Iranian guy, and put in the Shah, who would follow along the banking system. And this whole process was set up years ago. The United States was the butt kicker, so to speak, of those people that wouldn't fall in line and become part of the Federal Reserve. Not necessarily the international banking cartel, and use the Federal Reserve, or use the dollar as the currency of the country to buy foreign trade with. Yes, Gaddafi was going to a gold and silver backed currency, and his economy was doing great. And so,
they were doing great. People that got married had a full year off, I believe. And I think that was the way it was at the beginning of the United States, to my knowledge, is that when people got married at the beginning of the United States, the entire community made sure they had food, they had things to live on, so they could spend time together and just honestly establish their relationship. And it wasn't with all this distraction and hardship. And I really think that's a great idea. The distractions that we have just trying to make it through life financially, because of what these people have done, have destroyed the family. I would be all for that. I really would. And learning how to build a life together, I think it's a great idea. I really do.
well, then that brings us back to what the whole system was set up, and how the corruption was, and why we have this corruption. And it goes back to, they want to totally control the public. They want to keep us in economic slavery, and they have up to now been doing a pretty good job. But the failing democracy, so to speak, if we want to coin a phrase, the failing democracy is destroying that financial system that they have set up, because that whole idea of where we were and what we are living, and the democracy that we're living under, is a process by which they want to enslave the public, and that's going away. And those people that are at the very top, that are pushing buttons, trying to keep their money flow coming in, are doing what they can to make people believe and create the fear that we have our democracy. We're losing our democracy. It's part of the whole system.
And so, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I hear my relatives and friends say, "Oh, I gotta hurry up. I gotta do my taxes this year. I can't go out. I can't do this. I can't do that, because I got to do my taxes." I don't do my taxes anymore. I've been liberated from that years ago, and only that makes life much greater when I don't have to think about, it's crunch time. I got to put all my paperwork together. I got to collect all the receipts. I got to have my whole closet full of the receipts that I've made over the years, so I can deduct BS. That whole system has got to go. But the only way we're going to get rid of it is to get rid of the Federal Reserve. And
right. And we have to have honest people in office. You know, we have to have honest people in office that understand how this works. You know, and I would
Well,
like
we gotta have more people in the public paying attention to those in the office.
right.
Because remember what Ben Franklin
Those together.
said. Yeah, well, it's important. Remember what Ben Franklin says. The people that are going to be elected are, what did he say? Um, Beggars and thieves and self-centered men. But we're going to bind them with the chains of the Constitution. But we haven't figured out what the Constitution says, so we can't bind them with the chains of the Constitution. So that's where we have to start. Everybody should have at least read the Constitution several times to figure out what it says and what it means. And then we can go after these public functionaries and use the chains of the Constitution to bind them. And it's up to us.
Yeah, we've got to be able to do that. I think that's, you know, I got voted in as chairman of the Constitution Party in Michigan, which is U.S. Taxpayers Party, because Benson, the criminal, refuses to change our name, but that's going to change. So we're going to be doing some really interesting things, because I just really feel very strongly that a political party or a group of people, first of all, I think all political parties should come to an end. We've got a real problem there, but we've got the system we have right now, and we're going to have to work our way out of the mess that we're in right now. But as a group of people who are very like-minded within the Constitution Party, and there's no money involved in it. So if you think if somebody's going to think they're going to come into the Constitution Party and change that, no, there's no money in the Constitution Party. You're not going to make money off it. It's not part of the industry, and it is not going to be part of the industry, because quite honestly, I'd burn it right to the ground if it started going in that direction, so they wouldn't have the resource to do it, right? We're going to keep it pure and the way that it's supposed to work for a group of people, not necessarily just a political party. But we're going to be doing some work, and we've already started the baseline of the work that we're doing. Where I'm going today, I'm headed down to Lansing today, and I think that we're going to have a fun day today. It's going to be a fun day, and this is the beginning. We'll be talking about why I'm going and what I'm doing there today next week, and I think you're going to have a little bit of criticisms over what I'm doing, which I expect out of you, because you need to tater me if I'm wrong, but you know. But you got to keep swinging, because, you know, one of those things, I also have an opinion on how, you know, I want to approach certain things. And I love the feedback from everybody. But this is a singular effort that I'm going there for today. So I'm going to give it my best shot on a few things. And next week we'll be talking about it. But I really appreciate everyone in the Constitution Party in Michigan, the U.S. Taxpayers Party, because you don't run for an office. Nobody runs for any offices or positions. It's very quiet. And when we sit down, when we have to change offices, nobody is given a speech to try to necessarily get the office per se. At the statewide offices, we'll introduce ourselves or something like that. But that's about as far as it goes. But you have to be nominated. Someone has to nominate you, and you never see anybody get up there and campaign per se for that nomination, which I find really refreshing. In fact, when I got the nomination for the chairman of the Constitution Party, the first thing that came out of somebody's mouth was, "You have my condolences," which I thought, which of course was really funny. But yeah, it was funny, because 4 people basically said, "Well, we'd like a nomination for the chair." 4 people at the exact same time said, "I nominate Donna Brandenburg," which was absolutely hilarious. I literally laid my head on the table and just started laughing. So, well, glutton for punishment, I guess, but I'm going to have fun with it, just like I do everything. You know, you gotta do it what's in front of you and do it to the best of your ability.
That's right.
So there you go. Well, sir, I've got to get ready for a little bit of ass kicking today, because that's the day that we're going to have today. It's going to be fun, because I enjoy doing that sort of thing when somebody is out of line and somebody needs to be called to account of what they're doing. So that's the day today. And so I tell you what, let's say a prayer and end the day, because I've got just a little bit of administrative work to do before I take off. So, but anyhow, you want to pray or do you want me to?
No, you can do that. But I would like to just say that we all have a Wednesday night Zoom, as I've said to everybody in the past. Please come and start learning the laws and learning the way that life is supposed to be in this country. Learn what it is that you have to do mentally. Remember, your mind is a muscle just like everything else. If you don't exercise it, it becomes flabby. And that's the problem that we've had in our country. We have flabby minds because we cannot and do not understand how to control what's going on in front of us. And we just, well, kowtow. We're afraid. We're frightened. Get away from that being frightened business, because that's not helping you. You're not going anywhere if you're scared to go out the door and do your next thing. Get your freedom back. That's where that's what we got to do. So show up at our Zoom and learn some things and get that mind exercised.
Learn a lot. Stop doom scrolling and getting involved in watching things that waste your time, and put it into something productive or educational. That's the best way to do it. Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day that you've given us today, and for John and the knowledge that he's been able to acquire over the years, and the fact that he's very, very willing to share with all of us and help us to know how to manage this asset that you've given us to be stewards of. We're so thankful for the United States and for Michigan and for all the states that everybody lives in. And we ask that you would give us guidance on the way through this. There's so many things on our minds today, and we ask that you would, by the blood of Christ, just cover us in all things, whether it be for provision, for health, that you would truly heal us all, that you'd help us to learn how to communicate with each other in a very healing way. Everybody's so hurt right now, and in so many different ways, and most of those things are never spoken, so we really don't even know what's going on with the people around us. We ask that you would give us the eyes to see people the way you do, to be helpful, to lay down our lives, which means our times, our schedules, and what we think we need to do, and put it into the things that you put in front of us, that you're nudging us to do, rather than money, goals, or what we think makes us a better person in the eyes of the world. We reject it, and we really only care about how you think we're doing, because you're the only one that's perfect. You're the only one that has the right to judge, and you're the only one that truly, truly loves us completely and unconditionally. We love you for everything you do for us, and you've been a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you. In the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, we pray. Amen. So here we go, boys and girls. I'm going to go off to my day of being a nuisance to bad guys, which I love doing. And so we're going to go to that part of the show, boys and girls, go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceited who's ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to talk to the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, about this, and cowboy boots, who wears them better. So, and let's talk about real problems and real solutions that we can work on together, and how we're going to pull the United States back together and stop all this splinter group nonsense, because it's nonsense. And so with that said, boys and girls, have a happy April Fool's Day today. Go get somebody and make it fun. So God bless you. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. I will see you next week, and I'm not sure if it's going to be Monday or Tuesday, but I'm on recon, so we'll see how that goes, and I'll let you know how things are going along the path a little bit. So just pay attention to my accounts. If I get a chance to sneak a few things in, or some pictures or an update on what I'm seeing and hearing, I'll let you know. So thanks, John.
You're welcome.
See you in line.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. See you in line.